Welcome to Dan ARG YouTube. This woman wey you dey see for this video, her name na Osa of Yahweh. Na she be the Commissioner for Education for Edo State. Make I leave you, make you hear from the woman how teachers go dey teach students for Edo State. Enjoy the video.
Thank you very much, everyone, and you are welcome once again. Without further ado, the press briefing is going to start now. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Is he on or off now? Where is this? Somebody should push this YouTube down. When I link it, Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ministry of Education. It's our pleasure this morning to invite you to this press briefing. My name is Joan Osaviawe, Commissioner of Education, and with me here today are some members of our management team at the Ministry of Education, as well as heads of the various boards that manage the non-tertiary education subsector in Edo State. We are here today to give you a progress report. Since I was sworn in October 2021, we've been doing a lot of work, a lot of planning, stakeholder engagement across the state. We have met with our secondary school teachers. We have met with a cross-section of principals across the 18 local government areas. We have held town hall meetings just to make sure that the ministry feels the pulse and understands the pain points of parents and other stakeholders, so that whatever we are presenting to the good people of Edo State as our package for education reform would reflect the needs and the yearnings of everybody. We are here today because of His Excellency Governor Godwin Norerase Obaseki and his abiding commitment to reenacting education in Edo State. This reenactment of education covers the full spectrum from basic to tertiary. And so far for this year, we have really concentrated our efforts to senior secondary education reform, as well as to consolidate all the gains that have been made in the last 3 years in basic education. By next year, first quarter, you are going to start seeing efforts, activities being rolled out in the area of tertiary education. So it is my pleasure once again to welcome you to this interactive section. We're going to hear briefly from the unit head of curriculum and learning standards in the Ministry of Education as they present to us what they have done, what they have been working on in the last few months, which is the harmonized academic calendar, timetable, and so on and so forth.
Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of my department and the Ministry of Education, the Education Resource Center, I want to present to you the Honorable Commissioner what we have been doing in the department. Ma'am, as Edo-based policy, you came with policy that as a department, we said we must fulfill it. This is the harmonized academic calendar for 2020-2023 session. A lot of innovation they added now. Before now, our children in public school will not attend the excursion. But in this calendar, there is room for excursion, there's room for prize giving day, there's room for graduation. You see in private schools that children are always organizing graduation. But the Honorable Commissioner insisted that our public school students must be graduating. We have all the activities for our primary 6 and best exam. They are included in this calendar. Man, on behalf of my department, Education Resource Center, we present to you the school calendar. On behalf of the department, we present to you the harmonized academic calendar. Thank you. And the Honorable Commissioner said that the way our public school children dress to school, that she's not too comfortable. She insisted that the department must provide to the public back to school in the city. Now, on behalf of the department, once again, we present to you back to school in the city. Then, if you go to school, you see that our teachers, they just teach without scheme of work. And the commissioner said, we must have, as a state, must have a uniform scheme of work in all subjects, in all tiers of school. Then she now asked the department that learning standard must be added at the end of the session. What is a child supposed to learn? Now, on behalf of the ministry, on behalf of the department, we present to you the uniform scheme of work. The Honorable Commissioner was not happy that we don't have e-library in our schools. She said our schools, our classrooms, we must have e-learning. What is e-learning? Every child should have access to textbooks, novels in their classroom. And she wants the children to, on their own, learn how to maintain culture. Now, on behalf of the department, this is the guideline for every classroom library in the school in Edo State. On behalf of my department, ma'am, I present to you the guideline for every classroom library. Thank you, ma'am. Then she needed a uniform timetable for the school. The reason for this uniform timetable is that if a child is in media college and the parents have been transferred to Organogram, Amide Secondary School, so want that child, what we are learning in India college, that child in Organogram should be doing the same thing. Ma'am, a uniform timetable have been prepared by the department. We present to you from SS1 to SS3, upper basic and lower basic, ECCD, to the Honorable Commissioner for Education. The technical school is not left out. She said she wants uniform timetable for the TVET school. On behalf of the ministry and the department, we present to you the technical school timetable. Thank you, ma'am, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ero and Mrs. Co-Chair of the Education Resource Center in the Ministry of Education. I'm just going to speak to specific highlights of our education reform as it relates to senior secondary education. The quality of education students are receiving in our schools, particularly in our public schools, has come under scrutiny recently in Edo State due to the high rate of malpractice and misconduct reported during major examination exercises in the state, as well as the lack of personnel, teachers, in many of our schools across the 307 senior secondary schools we have in the 18 local government areas. In order to build on the achievements already seen in our basic education subsector during the Edo Basic Education Sector Transformation, Edo Best, the state government, through the Ministry of Education, has been compelled to take decisive action under the Edo Best 2.0 reform framework to address concerns with senior secondary education. Our reform in the senior secondary subsector is intended to have an impact on students' learning as well as on school administration in three key areas: academics, co-curricular activities, and school management. Under academics, we want to ensure that students are prepared to meet performance expectations in a constantly changing workplace and remain relevant. We have reimagined academic activities to reflect the following. 60% of our school timetable is now dedicated to activities for teaching, learning, and instructional time. 24% of our school timetable addresses co-curricular activities, while 16% of our school timetable are for brain-stimulating activities for students. Together, we are in our timetable 100% of the allocated time covers all three domains of learning, known as the psychomotor, affective, and cognitive domains. We have designed our school calendar to cover the full academic year. So whatever is going to happen April next year, April 2023, as of August 5th, 2022, we already know. And therefore, everybody in our non-tertiary education subsector are expected to follow this harmonized calendar. The school timetable will also ensure that all our students, no matter where they are attending school, whether in Oredo, in Benin City, Oredo, or at Ikakumo in Akoko Edo, or in Ajoki riverine area in Ikobaoka, and anywhere, whether rural or remote, semi-urban, they are learning the same content and at the same pace. And so we have earmarked up to 400 hours of learning over the period of one term. We have also now, as you have seen from the presentation earlier by the department, that we now have a uniform scheme of work that is aligned to the Nigerian national curriculum, that meets the Nigerian national curriculum and goes a little bit further than that. We have also now, in order to bring back the culture of reading, we are going to be rolling out a new campaign or program initiative called Every Classroom a Library. Every classroom a library. While we are waiting to have libraries in all the 18 local government areas, in line with the ongoing reform of the library, Edo State Library Board, in the interim, we plan to have mini libraries in each classroom, and the students will serve as librarians in their classroom library, check out the books, bring them back, and so on and so forth. some of the, as we've gone around our schools in the last 3 terms, one of the recurring complaints from our teachers is that a good number of our parents are not providing the requisite materials for their children to learn effectively at school. Some parents don't even provide exercise books. A good number of them are not buying textbooks. And so without these tools, these children will not learn effectively. In order to bridge this gap, the ministry has now taken it upon itself to produce a very comprehensive back to school list. And we are releasing it early enough so that parents, well-intentioned philanthropists out there can start working towards providing these back to school basics for our students. The reason we have also decided to provide this comprehensive list is also to help guide a lot of the philanthropic interventions. We are going back to school in September, and that's the period where a lot of NGOs, old student associations, churches, and other philanthropic individuals and corporations want to donate all kinds of things to our schools. We believe that with this list now, we can all be working with the same purpose. I want to plead and encourage everybody out there who is planning to make a donation to take a look at this list that has been produced by the ministry. All of this will be on our website within the next few days. So go through that list instead of just focusing on buying exercise book. Maybe what you can do for the school or a particular class level is to buy some of the textbooks. So even if the students don't have the textbooks at home, they can have it to use at school. In addition, particularly, for all levels of all tiers of learning or education in our state, we are now effectively implementing what is called a learner-centered pedagogy. Learner-centered pedagogy, which means it's no longer that the teacher stands in front of the class and just talk, and then the students are supposed to take notes. No. Learner-centered pedagogy means there is interaction between the teacher and the students, there is interaction between the students and the teachers, and then there is interaction between the students and their fellow students. To support this learner-centered pedagogy method of teaching, we are also now implementing a competency-based learning approach. So competency-based learning means we are moving our students and our pupils away from simply cramming and regurgitating facts to more about creative thinking, communication, developing their communication skills, developing their ability to work in a team and collaborate. So by the time a student is in SS3, they would have had projects that they are working on. They should be able to conduct a basic research. And by the time they get into the university, if that's their interest, they would know the basic rudimentaries of research, hypothesis, and so on and so forth. So if you go through our timetable, you are going to see a lot of time created to enable our students do projects at school and at home. In partnership with UNICEF, we are also going to be rolling out digital learning in our senior secondary schools. At the basic level currently, the teachers have tablets, the students don't have. At the senior secondary level, the evolution of the work we started that Governor Obaseki has started in basic education reform at the senior secondary level. Both the teachers and the students will have access to digital learning tools. And so the first set of 650 teachers that are going to be trained in digital learning will happen this August, ahead of resumption in September. To address the gap in personnel, we know that since 2008, teachers have not been employed in Edo State. And so early this year, the governor graciously gave approval for SUBEB to employ 3,000 teachers. At the senior secondary level, I expect by Tuesday next week to receive from the committee that has been working on recruitment for senior secondary teachers. I expect to receive the list of the first 1,000 teachers that have been shortlisted. So for the first phase of the recruitment for senior secondary school teachers, 1,000 teachers will be shortlisted, trained and deployed to our schools by the time school resumes in September. The focus for this first phase of recruitment is on mathematics and English teachers. Moving on to co-curricular activities, we have looked at what the offerings we have for our students. We have looked at existing school clubs and we have streamlined them. By streamlining, it means that every student would be expected to be a part of a club. And let me also use this opportunity to appeal to all the NGOs and churches and other allied organizations out there. We get a lot of requests every day in the ministry requesting permission to go into our schools and hold seminars on a wide variety of topics. We have looked at it and determined that instead of everybody trying to do their own thing, imagine if every time an NGO or any other organization requests a permission to pull our students out of the classroom. Cumulatively, that's a lot of hours our students are losing in learning. So what we are now saying is, instead of coming to do your own thing, work within the existing structure of our schools. So we don't want to have a proliferation of school clubs and nobody is really, the students are not really engaging with those school clubs. So any NGO or group that want to have some kind of co-curricular activities in our schools must now work through existing school clubs. To also address the frequent requests for seminars and opportunities to meet with our students, we have now introduced what we call Social Impact Day. On Social Impact Day, we are asking all the NGOs and churches and organizations that want to come and hold a seminar to come that day and interact with our students. The second half of Social Impact Day is actually geared towards students' volunteerism. From an early age, we want to start teaching our learners the values of giving back, the values of public service. So on Social Impact Day, the students are going to interact with a wide variety of people and also give back to the community where their school is located by engaging in various public service activities. In addition, we have also introduced Teacher Appreciation Day. We believe that our teachers deserve to be encouraged, deserve to be appreciated. It's not easy, but they are giving of their time and effort and professional expertise to train other people's children. And for that, we want to appeal to parents, communities, alumni association, and every good stakeholder that are out there that on Teacher Appreciation Day, our teachers should be appreciated. We have introduced excursions. Inter-house sport is now compulsory. Excursion is compulsory. Inter-house sport is compulsory. Based on the directives of their excellencies, the Executive Governor of Edo State, Governor Godwin Obaseki, and the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Comrade, Right Honorable Comrade Philip Shoaibu, we all know is a lover of sports. We have been directed to bring back Principal's Cup. And I'm happy to announce that the Ministry of Education is bringing back Principal's Cup. Under sports development, we have a very robust sports development plan that includes athletics, ball games, and calisthenic exercises. In terms of school governance, we have put together at the senior secondary level school management board. In fact, we have gotten tremendous interest from across every spectrum of our society. I want to use this opportunity to really appreciate, on behalf of the Edo State education ecosystem, those illustrious men and women from Edo State, friends of Edo State, who live in Edo or in Nigeria or in other parts of the world, who have already signed up to be members of our school management board. The role of the school management board is to help in the operational oversight of our schools. Every secondary school, senior secondary school, is going to have a school management board, and the principal of that school is the secretary of the board. On the board also is a representative of all students of the school, the alumni association of the school. A parent of a student would also be on the board, a representative of the Parents Teachers Association as well, and a representative of teachers in that school. Together with the school management board, the ministry anticipates that we will have better outcomes in terms of our school management. We also plan to strengthen our PTA, and we have the Ministry of Education has now developed a school organogram that will go into effect this coming academic section. This school organogram has now created new leadership positions in our senior secondary school that will support the principal to effectively administer our schools. So with the new organogram in our senior secondary schools, we will now have a principal, vice principal academics, vice principal student affairs, a guidance counselor, a head of department, whether sciences, social sciences, or the humanities, as well as head of sections. So SS1, we have the head of section. SS2, we have a head of section. SS3, we have a head of section. We have also created the role of a student welfare officer. If our students are coming to school hungry, we want to know. If our students don't have a home to go to, we want to know. A traumatized child cannot learn, even if we have a 5-star learning environment. Finally, we have created a position for social safeguard officer. Social safeguarding. We are very committed at the Ministry of Education to protect all our learners from all kinds of societal vices, whether sexual defilement, whether child abuse, whatever it is, cultism, drug abuse, all of these things we are placing a priority on them, so that at the end of the day, We are really going to be focusing on educating the heart and the minds of the adult child. Thank you very much. And I will now take questions.
Thank you very much, ma'am. My name is Apostle Alfred of the Untitled Chapter. We do appreciate your job. Thank you very much for helping to change the negative narrative about education system in Edo State. But it's something that been bothering my mind, the issue of we have employed teachers, but there are so many areas in villages they lack teachers. But we keep hearing that the ministry has employed teachers. So what is the plan? I will really know, want to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned earlier, since 2008, Edo State government has not employed teachers. So what that means is that the gaps to fill is quite massive. We are talking, at a conservative estimate, roughly about 6,000 to 7,000. As I mentioned, 3,000 have already been employed at the basic level. And the first phase of employment for the senior secondary, 1,000 teachers, that is also going to happen. I think when you employ teachers, it's not a secret thing. So there will be employment letters, people will actually show up at school. And that's why we've, at the core of the Edo Star Teaching Fellowship Program, is the fact that every teacher, every applicant is expected to teach at a school in their community. So that way, we want to eliminate this issue where people don't want to go to the rural areas and teach. In fact, many rural, remote, and riverine communities, we have made special concessions for them. That if they have their own children who are teachers or qualified to be teachers and are interested in teaching, irrespective of the quota for every phase of the employment process, we will give them priority. And as we have received those requests, we have honored them.
I still have another question.
Sure.
Like Uselu Secondary School, the building there is gone completely. So I don't know what is your plan, the ministry plan to bring back Uselu Secondary School.
Thank you. Infrastructure is a big issue across the board. A lot has been done at the basic level, and we still have some ways to go. At the senior secondary level, we all know that's one area that has been abandoned for so long. So even the federal government is now trying to do something as well with the recent establishment of the Secondary School Commission. And at the federal level, there's now a Secondary School Commission which will perform similar role as the Universal Basic Education Commission with the counterpart funding for infrastructure. So in Edo State, we are currently working to revise the laws that set up the Post-Primary Education Board, change the name to reflect the new governance structure from the federal level. And then also, at the moment, working with the Post-Primary Education Board, we have been asked to collate all these, the infrastructural needs in all our schools, and then cost them so that government knows the extent of the work that it needs to do. And I want to also use this opportunity to say, providing quality education is not a small feat. Quality education is very expensive. It is resource intensive. And I want to appeal that we need people of goodwill to support us in quickly turning around the state of our infrastructure, and also to thank those who are already doing something to assisting to renovate and provide amenities in our schools.
Thank you very much. Lastly, ma'am, I also discovered that the high rate of indiscipline of our children is becoming unbearable. You see our children coming to school with fly their uniform, so with all kind of rubbish in their hand, coming to school. So I don't know which measure are you going to put in to checkmate this SSA. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that has been addressed in the very elaborate explanation of our school timetable and the school leadership. Like I said, if you also go to our school, we forget that at the senior secondary level, that is a one age group that is young and restless. And so what we've tried to now do, beginning in September, every minute that our students are in school should be accounted for. They should be engaged in productive ways. So all these things become a habit because they say the idle mind is the devil's workshop. So we want to make sure that our students are engaged. We are going to ensure that all our school heads, there's going to be, in fact, beginning next week, we are inviting all our existing principals for an interactive section. And then we have also now put out internal recruitment notice for teachers who are interested in the various leadership positions that have now been created. After that, they are going to go through training. We're going to give them the tools they need to be able to do their work. And we are going to put forth very clear performance benchmark. If you are a principal of a school, you should be able to manage that school and control your students. Yes.
Thank you, Mike. My name is Vera. From a local office. I have two questions. Considering the volatility of the school environment, especially at night, I want to ask about the measures that were put in place for the safety of this library students. You said every classroom will be in a library.
Yes.
So what are the arrangements for such arrangements? Then two, we talk about guidance counseling. I think that will go a long way helping our students to have a niche for themselves, to direct them in the future. So these 1,000 teachers that are expected to be employed in different time, how many of the qualified guidance counselors in that number?
Thank you. That's a good question. What we've done so far is to ask within our teachers from basic to senior and TVET. When I say senior, I'm also talking about our technical schools. All the teachers who have a degree or certificate in guidance counseling. For those who don't have, but are interested in counseling and have a flair for it, we have created they fall under the category of para counselors. So all of them are going to be trained to be able to provide these services. And they will be supervised by qualified and experienced guidance counselors. On the issue of security, absolutely. It's a major problem. Again, that is not a task meant for government alone. Our schools are in communities, and these communities are peopled by responsible men and women. So we are going to be having very frequent interactions with communities, with the school management board, to see how we can effectively address this once and for all.
Good afternoon, my on behalf of my question goes like this on the solution. In 2019, from my certificate, that not be addressed. People have been so far to make sure that 2019 certificate.
Thank you. When we were writing the primary 6 exam in June, I did come on here and promise that by August the results will be out, and that by September we will clear all the outstanding certificates yet to be released. And I want to say that we are very much on track to fulfill that promise. As I speak to you now, the primary 6 exams have been marked. The primary 6 exam has been marked, and the results will be published this week, next week. And we are going to also begin to produce the certificate. If you look at our harmonized academic calendar, you will notice that we are starting very early with the exams. So by September 30th, beginning September 30th, we are going to open the registration for both the primary 6 exam and the BESL exam. And then by March, from March 20th to the 24th, we are going to be conducting both the primary 6 and BESL exam. So the reason why we shifted the date forward is to give us ample time to not just plan, conduct this exam, and also print the certificate. So by the time the students are going into SS1 or JSS1 in September, they would already have their certificate, and they will also know which school, based on their score, which secondary school they are now going to.
Ma'am, can I see? There's one there for you. Can I continue?
Yes.
Thank you, my honorable commissioner. If you go to some of the secondary school, e.g., in your secondary school, part when you go there, for the week, no chair, no desk. The same place, Umagba Grammar School, along near my road. Uga Secondary School, at your right, before Obagi. And if you go to Holy Trinity Grammar School at Sapogida, that one, the government tried for that very place. And but the one at Homura, need government attention. Please,
Thank you. Thank you.
Good Honorable Commissioner, my name is Usman Ali. I write for during your assessment or when you went to the conduct of primary 6 exam this year, you made mention of something that for the forthcoming exam, next year exam, that's to the technological piece. So, we want to know what you mean by this. Is it going to be a CBT test, or what kind of technology do you plan to introduce to the primary 6 examination? Then, second question has to do with the state of the infrastructure, most of the public schools. In the last 2 weeks, we saw a report on the front page of one, and there are many others like that. Is we'd like to know how soon government wants to do something with that.
Thank you very much. On the issue of technology, introducing technology in how we conduct our exams, no, we are not. I don't think we are doing CBT. I think what I meant at that time was that we are going to be automating the processes for exams. Before now, and one of the reasons why it took so long, it used to take such a long time to mark and then do this and do that, was everything was done manually. The teachers will mark it and then submit the files to the ministry, and then somebody or a group of people at the ministry have to sort through the files and all of that. So what we've started doing now with this year's exam is that we've automated the process. Everybody, both the public school and private school proprietors, they have to enroll for the exams online. For the marking, all our teachers have to submit their scores online. And that has helped us to just get the names and the scores and the schools, and then process them and send them off to the printer for printing the certificate. Finally, one area we are looking at, we have not made a decision yet, is utilizing technology to even mark the scripts. There are all kinds of technology out there now that not just only mark, but also do an analysis of the score. So it's not enough to just say a pupil passed. What kind of, because the questions in the exams are, 4, 5, and 6, span those grade levels. So it will be nice to know what kinds of questions did a particular pupil or student do well in. Is it the basic question, the advanced questions, or the intermediate questions? So we are exploring different opportunities to optimize what we are doing and provide a more robust analysis of results to parents. So it's not just pass or fail. For infrastructure, this is a major challenge and concern to us at the ministry. It's not something we are shying away from. We know we in this administration inherited a large inventory of dilapidated schools across the state. And given also the resource constraints, the resource commitments to hiring more personnel, the resource commitment to providing free and quality basic education. Of course, it goes without saying that government alone can't do this. So it must be a collaborative effort. So we are going to be rolling out, making announcements in the coming months that will help us to strengthen education funding. We have to figure out a sustainable way to fund senior secondary education. There's a popular saying that if you think education is expensive, try illiteracy. And we're already seeing it with the near breakdown of our moral fiber in society. We hear a lot of our young people saying school na scam. There's a reason for that. When I talk to my teachers and every other education stakeholder, people in our ecosystem, I always remind all of us that we're talking about the proliferation of Yahoo Yahoo, the counter culture of get rich quick schemes that a lot of young people are being sucked into. And this all creates about money rituals. And I said, at most, a lot of these young people have just one father and one mother. And by the time they have killed them for rituals, they are going to start plucking the rest of us off of the street. So none of us is really safe. No matter how high our fences are, no matter the electric, whatever electric fences we erect. So quality education should be the business of each and every one of us. And we all have something to contribute. If we are waiting for government to do it alone, then we are going to be still lagging behind. And as a ministry, we don't want to lag behind. We are doing what we can, and we continue to do what we can to make sure that we close the infrastructure gap. Thank you.
Absolutely. The last person, please. Okay. My question is like this. Now, she presented a document to you that talks about e-library, and we also talked about making each of the class have a library. I'm just thinking, are you going to be buying books for each of these classes? If it's e-library, are we going to be having e-library in an school where there's no electricity? And the other question is, you have talked about, I want to believe that these reforms will cover the provision of labs, because we understand that many of our schools do not have a lab, maybe science lab or whatever lab, they do not have. These reforms, has it covered all these things?
Thank you. Yes, it does. And in fact, what we have done, the reason I didn't mention it because we are yet to get approval, but I would say as part of what we are working on currently, we have come up with 6 categories of academic specializations for our senior secondary schools that we are calling centers of excellence. So we have, one is entrepreneurship. So if a school has a particular focus on entrepreneurship, it means that in that school we are providing all the requisite tools to be able to train students who go to those schools for entrepreneurship. So for instance, we have a rare care spare parts market, and we also have a rare care secondary school. If that school is an entrepreneur school, it's a very perfect synergy between a very thriving spare parts market that has all kinds of dimensions in terms of import and export. The other category is technology and engineering. Then we have health and medical sciences. So everybody that wants to are interested in a career, whether nursing or chiropractor or medical doctor. The other category is social sciences and applied humanities. So whoever wants to be an accountant, a lawyer, an economist. Then, of course, we've not left out the arts. So we have a category focusing on creative and performing arts. Nowadays, with the TikTok generation, like they call them, are very adept at content creation. And so we want to address that as well. And then finally, sports. We have students who have a natural flair or a passion or an interest for sports. So by having this categorization, it then means that when we identify these schools, we provide exactly what they need for them. We have 306 secondary school or 307. One is neither here nor there. We are trying to reopen it, reactivate it. So we don't want to now start trying to provide the same things, a lab, a sporting facilities, a music studio for all of them. So we identify what the foci of a particular school is, and then we provide so for health and medical sciences, okay, we need to have a biology lab, or there's a hospital close by. Students make use of that hospital for additional learning. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying essentially is that we are very aware of this. We are also aware of resource constraints, and we are putting in place a plan that will allow us to maximize our limited resources and still be able to provide optimum education for all our students. And then for the library, when we say every classroom a library, we essentially means that there's going to be a bookcase in each classroom. And this is where the community comes in, the community and the stakeholders engagement. We cannot afford, we have in total over, in the basic education level, we have 18,052 classrooms. At senior secondary, we have 3,835 classrooms. In our TVET, we have 61 classrooms, and in special education, we have 46. So you see, it's a lot. And why we have created this initiative is to give those who want to support our schools an opportunity to do something meaningful. So instead of 100 alumni associations and NGOs going to provide exercise books to the same school, maybe some of them can then decide to adopt just one class and provide some and donate some books for the students in that class.
Thank you, Honorable Commissioner, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. And we are going to continue to keep you abreast of all the activities. As I mentioned, our immediate focus for this year is senior secondary education reform. And by the time we get to, we are not leaving out special education, adult education as well. When we get to those tiers of education, we're also going to be providing information for you to be able to follow our progress. Thank you once again, everyone, and have a wonderful day. Yeah.
Now we don't hear from the commissioner. Let us know what you think for comment section. If you never subscribe to Dan ARG YouTube, try make you subscribe so that make you for the hear all the things wey dey happen for Nigeria. Make I leave you with this video, make you help us share am. Thank you for watching Dan ARG YouTube.